And we're privileged to have Steve Schreiner, president and founder of Schreiner Tree Care, talk to us about beech tree leaf disease. For the past 40 years, Steve's focus and his team has been on the safety education and the customer experience, and has earned him the loyalty of many customers. Steve is known as the area's knowledge-based arborist, and his team recognize the privilege it is to maintain properties and trees. His continued commitment to delivering exceptional quality service is demonstrated each day in his team's dedication. He's a master arborist as well as a member of the International Society of Arboriculture, and he's joined by John Dwyer, who is also a master arborist and has worked with Steve for over 15 years. So welcome, and now I'm going to turn it over to Steve and John. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So as a way of getting started, just want to say that I love having John here with me tonight. He runs our plant health care division of our business and is a very knowledgeable arborist and will really be informative this evening. So without further ado, so you may have heard of beech leaf disease, and if you haven't, tonight you're going to know about it and what to look for and how we can start thinking about managing beech trees in our community. What's upsetting is we're just getting off of the white ash epidemic with the emerald ash borer, where we saw a collapse of that tree species in our environment. And now we're being faced with another potentially detrimental species collapsing problem due to a different type of organism, which we'll learn about tonight, which is a nematode. So just to understand, before getting started, we're going to get in the mood. I found this video, and it's just really neat. So it's a year in the life of a beech tree, and this is a European beech, which is Fagus sylvatica. Excellent. So you can see why we're concerned, right? Beech trees are very stately trees. They're a lovely tree in the landscape. You can hit the next guy there. Alrighty, so the American beech tree. So we just saw in a video was the European beech tree. The native species here in the U.S. is the American beech tree, which is Fagus grandiflora. There are additional beech species that are affected by this nematode as well, which John will get into in the talk. So it's really all beech trees. Other species of trees are not affected by this nematode, as we know as of yet, and it's not harmful to humans. It's plant contained with beech trees. So everybody probably is aware of the beautiful smooth bark. Here's a small representation of it here this evening. It's not furrowed, very smooth, and it's just a lovely stately tree, and it's considered in the forest ecosystem as the climax species, along with the oaks, shagbark hickories, and the predominant hardwood species in our forests here in Pennsylvania. So with the buds, as you can see in the second picture from the left, the buds are pointed, they have scales, and they kind of resemble I'm not a cigar smoker, but they kind of resemble a cigar. But it's a very easily recognizable bud set when you see it. The fruit or the nut is encased in a prickly, spiny husk, and in the fall, as the husk, as it dries out, the husk open up and the seeds drop to the ground. And obviously, they're a critical food source for a lot of wildlife. So it's really going to be impactful to the not only the suburban landscape, but to the forested landscape as well. What's interesting is the fruit production, it's considered massed. And when you have a bumper massed crop, they're usually run on 2 to 4 year cycles. And the old Farmer's Almanac says when you have a heavy massed fall, you're going to have a severe winter. Well, this year was a heavy massed fall with acorns and also beech nuts. So with the snowfall and the cold temperatures, it's staying true to form. So it takes a beech tree about 40 years to produce seeds or nuts, and they can live beyond 200 years of age. The leaves are simple, alternate, and oval in shape. They're about 5 inches long, and the leaf margins have widely spaced serrated edges, different from some of the other species of beech that you'll see shortly. The foliage turns a beautiful yellow or a bronze in the fall, and it can persist through the wintertime. There's a condition called marcescence. John is also my English teacher as well. Marcescence, and this is a condition where it would appear to be dead, because usually when you see dead leaves on a tree, you think that the sapling or the tree is dead. Here it retains them. It doesn't experience full abscission, or when the petiole dries out, the leaf doesn't drop. But what will happen in the springtime when the bud unfolds, the dried leaves will slough off, and you won't see them. You've probably also seen it in oak trees and witch hazel and I guess sweet bay magnolia too. That's more semi-deciduous, but they retain their leaves. So it's not always a health concern when you see the foliage, the dried foliage on the tree. Typically what I recommend to do is always do the thumbnail scratch. That's where you'll go up to the stem and just gently with your thumbnail scratch the twig, and you'll see the green cortex underneath, and then you know it's viable. So a couple tricks of the trade there. Okay, the bark, very characteristic, as I mentioned earlier. It's smooth, it's gray. Unfortunately, it is prone to wounding. So lovers in the park may carve their names in there, or somebody that's very vain may put their own name in it. So highly discouraged, because you're creating an opening or a wound in the tree. So that's one of the unfortunate characteristics of the beech tree. The picture third from the left is the European copper beech, and you can see it's often described as having an elephant's foot, the way the root plate comes out of the ground. So very interesting, and you see the different, they have a labyrinth of surface roots. They prefer to have well-drained, rich, moist soils. They don't like extremes. So if it's too dry, they suffer. If it's too wet, they suffer. And beech trees also don't do well around construction. Any type of soil disturbance, grading, they're not happy campers. It really sets them back and causes their mortality. The wood is prized in furniture making, in carpentry, woodworking, flooring. It's a very clean, how would I say it? Not many defects in the wood. Very smooth, clean, white wood. And the range. So the beech trees inhabit the eastern seaboard, if you will, of the United States up into Canada and Ontario and further up. It's just a little sidebar. There's a relationship between this plant and beech trees called beech drops. Sometimes they can be misidentified as root suckers coming off the root plate of a beech tree. They only will grow on and under beech trees. And basically, it's a parasitic plant. It lacks chlorophyll, doesn't photosynthesize, but it grows from previous year's seeds. And it sends out these hystoria, which is a root structure that kind of latches on to the beech tree's root system and pulls out nutrients and water from the beech trees. So this plant obviously would not survive without beech trees. So it's just kind of an interesting plant relationship. All righty. So any questions on identifying American beech trees? Did I do my job? All right, great. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John. You want the mic or?
No, do this.
Alrighty. Excellent. Do you need me
Everyone
to?
hear me all right? No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay. See that? He drives his own there.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the history of beech leaf disease, what its symptoms are, how it's impacting the tree, and then finally what the treatment options are and what we can look for moving forward here. So beech leaf disease was first found in northeastern Ohio back in 2012. It stayed relatively close to the shores of Lake Erie for the first couple years. You can see this kind of blue area here here we go. That's the first couple years. And then it made this rapid transport across northern Pennsylvania up into New England area in 2019, 2020 timeframe. We first saw beech leaf disease here in southeastern Pennsylvania back in 2022, but they were kind of isolated cases. It wasn't until 2024, 2025 that we really started seeing symptoms of beech leaf disease widespread in our area. And it's interesting to note that all 67 counties in Pennsylvania now have confirmed beech leaf disease. So fortunately, we'll say, only beech trees are affected by beech leaf disease. They're a member of the Fagaceae family, which also includes oak trees and chestnuts, but they have not found any signs of beech leaf disease going after those trees. But I guess the unfortunate thing is that it impacts all beech trees. So that's your American beech that we already discussed, and also your European beech. So your copper beech, your purple leaf beech, fern leaf, weeping beech, they're all similarly impacted. They just show their damage differently than the American beech trees do. So what is beech leaf disease? As the name suggests, pretty simple. Beech leaf disease is a disease of the leaves of beech trees. It is caused by a nematode, which is a microscopic worm. This particular nematode is considered a plant parasite. There are nematodes all over the place. They're one of the most abundant organisms on Earth. You can find them in the tropics, in the ocean, you can find them in Antarctica. I'm sure I have some on me right now, but we just can't see them. They're microscopic, right? Yeah, thanks. We would need an electron microscope to really drill down and see them. Unfortunately, they attack beech trees by the thousands. A single bud can have 6,000 to 7,000 nematodes in it. And we'll take a look at a pretty creepy video in a second here. And, of course, as I say, the beech leaf disease nematode is a plant parasite. We wouldn't be talking about it if it were otherwise, but most nematodes are, actually beneficial. They're nothing to worry about. So the beech leaf disease cycle, what's it doing? How's it impacting? First, a little plant bio. Every summer, kind of like midsummer, early fall, trees are starting to put on their buds for the following growing season. So around August timeframe, you'll start to see those buds develop at the base of this year's leaves. And as they're expanding, the adult nematodes are actually leaving the infected leaves, migrating down the twigs and into those developing plant tissues. And they'll then spend the entirety of the winter feeding on those buds, okay? So it's a very long time that they're in the buds feeding. All of the damage is happening in the buds over the course of the winter. And unchecked, beech leaf disease can kill a tree in 3 to 7 years. Some studies have suggested, 2 to 5. It really is going to depend upon the overall tree age, health, and vigor. So here's a quick little video. This is under an electron microscope. This is one single bud that they opened up and they put in the Petri dish with some water. So you can see just this disgusting number of worms feeding in there. we're going to zoom in a second here, and you'll see this. This, of course, wasn't me. I don't have an electron microscope. But you see this big sac that we're looking at here. These are all of the larvae, the eggs of that will be next year's nematodes that will continue spreading beech leaf disease. So again, one single bud. So the nematodes are microscopic, right? So how are they transporting? Of course, we really can't see them, so we've had to do some research and look at their life cycle here. Through different studies, researchers have found that they're able to transport through raindrops. They are windblown easily, up to 300-500 feet in some studies. Insects will eat them. Some researchers at Penn State recently studied a tussock moth caterpillar. The tussock moth was feeding on an infected beech leaf, and they took the caterpillar, put it in a petri dish, and studied its excrement, and they actually found live nematodes inside the feces. So the nematode was able to survive through the digestive tract, which I guess someone thought it was a good idea to say what happens when a bird eats a caterpillar. And so they studied the bird droppings and again found live nematodes in the bird droppings. So it's pretty resilient in that way. A separate study, they netted a bird, and it was pretty cute. They held it over a little cup and they washed its feet with water. They collected the water, and then they studied that under a microscope and again found more nematodes off the bird's feet. So when we consider the storms that we have, the wind-driven rain, squirrels running around, birds and their migration, you can see just how quickly this is going to spread across the United States. Symptoms, what are we looking for here? So the very first thing that we're going to see on the American beech trees are these kind of camouflage-looking leaves here with this dark green banding. These dark green sections of the leaf set against the lime green, those are the areas where the nematodes have been feeding all winter long. So they're actually damaging the plant tissues, and it's causing this thickened cell layer that, again, we'll look at in a minute here. But that's the banding on American beech. European, again, are going to show it differently, and we'll take a look at that in a minute here. As the disease progresses, so that would the first image would kind of be year one. Year 2, 3, as the second image, you'll see that the leaves are starting to become very stunted, and they're misshapen. They'll become very thick and leathery, almost crunchy in texture. And you'll start to get some tip dieback and some brown margins along the leaf edge, and it's really losing its shape here. At this point in the disease cycle with the American beech, they'll start to become ripped and torn. So it'll look almost like hail damage on a tree, or I guess little holes and shredded holes in a piece of paper, we'll say. And that's going to be the first thing that you'll see on the European beech, are these shredded leaves. That's a pretty severe case at that point. And then ultimately, as the disease goes further, we wind up seeing this increased transparency in the tree. So not nearly as many leaves, they're much smaller, they're stunted, and very crispy. This is kind of an end stage limb or tree in this case. One thing to note, beech trees early in the disease cycle will try to push out a second set of leaves. So they'll come out in the spring with that camouflage look, and you'll see all the really nasty symptoms. The damage to that leaf is blocking the tree's ability to photosynthesize. So the tree's saying, I'm stressed, I need more leaves, let me push out a new set. So they might put on 12, 18 inches of new leaves, and you will not see any damage on those leaves, right? Those will be perfectly looking, normal, healthy beech tree leaves. That's not saying that your tree is improving in health. It's not. It's just that the nematodes only feed in the bud over the course of the winter. And when they're putting this new second flush out in June, July, there haven't been any nematodes feeding on the bud because they're inside the leaf still. So it kind of gives you some false hope, we'll say. And here is just an image. So the guy on the left, that's your normal healthy leaf tissue. The guy on the right, with all of the craziness happening here, we don't need to get into cellular biology, but you can just see the amount of damage, what a normal leaf should look like versus this damaged leaf. That's the areas where the nematodes are feeding, and they're really damaging that plant tissue and causing that thickened, swollen, crusty cell layer.
How's everybody feeling?
Sorry. So,
That's great, John.
excuse me. With beech leaf disease, and all disease, we'll say, the very first thing that researchers do is they look for existing treatments that are already on the market that they might use to treat other tree conditions, right? So first we need to find out what that insect or disease is. In this case, it's a nematode. Then they say, okay, how do we combat that? Because we can't create a new product fast enough. So in this instance, they did find a handful of treatment options. They're not silver bullets. They're not going to be, the 100% cure. But what they're doing is trying to buy time while they do additional research to find what that cure may be. So we'll discuss we'll discuss three options. There's some injections, some foliar treatments, and then some trunk-based treatments that just kind of help boost tree vigor. So the first option would be a foliar nematicide. So a nematicide goes after nematodes. Foliar meaning that it has to be applied over the entire canopy. So this really is only an option for younger trees under, say, 6-inch diameter, maybe 25, 30 feet tall maximum. The trouble here with nematicides, while they're effective, they need to cover every bud. Every bud on the tree needs to absorb that product to take care of the nematode feeding. So coverage is critical, number one. Number two, timing is very important. So it needs to happen during bud development at 2 to 3 week intervals, okay? So you can see, in the summer you might have, we get some rainstorms, we get a lot of wind. It might be, out back near the pool. You can't always use these products. And then there's the risk of non-target species being impacted, the potential for it. So you really use this under very specific scenarios. It wouldn't be my go-to, first and foremost. The other option, which gives you a lot more leeway, we'll say, is a trunk injection. This product, Arbortect, was actually developed for Dutch elm disease, so it's been around for a very long time, for decades, in fact. And it's applied in the same manner. Injection sites are drilled into the root flare of the tree, and then the product is injected directly into the tree. The benefit here is that you have a much longer injection window. So as soon as the leaves fully emerge through bud development. So that kind of takes you from, we'll say, late April through kind of maybe, we'll say mid-August timeframe that you can actually do that injection. So it's one treatment every 2 years, which is kind of nice. But you do, unfortunately, have to drill the tree. So you are wounding the tree. Again, it's something that we don't want to do, but it's almost, the other effects are much worse. The tree will form wound wood around these injection sites. You don't want to do it every year, obviously. There is some research out there looking into the potential to increase it from a 2-year cycle to a 3-year cycle, but those studies haven't been released yet, so we're still just trying to buy some time here and see if the researchers can come up with another product, maybe at a different rate, different application timing that is less injurious to the tree. And then finally, we have phosphates. Phosphates are not, they're not just for beech trees. They're used kind of in all tree care. And the best way I can describe them is kind of a cellular stimulant. What they do is they boost the tree's natural defenses against invaders, and they do so by helping to thicken cell walls. So you'll get better water and nutrient transport through the tree. The tree is helping itself fight back against invaders. So really you're focusing on the holistic care of the tree. I would never use this as a one-off. You wouldn't ever just say, hey, we're doing phosphates, we don't need to inject. You would do this in conjunction with to help really increase the tree's health.
Well done, John. Excellent. So,
Microphone?
oh yeah, sorry. Very well done. Thank you. So the future beech trees. So you can see this is an individual beech tree pictured over 3 years. So I'm very curious to see what 2026 looks like. You can kind of see the canopy transparency, the thinning out of the upper canopy. Just a couple, what is the, yeah, there you go. Wanted to make some acknowledgments. Penn State, Rutgers, the Forest Service, USDA were all contributing their efforts to studying this organism and seeing how we can protect our trees, not only in a suburban setting, but obviously on a larger scale in the forest setting. Right now, we are sharing with our clients that it's really something that we want to target special or hallmark trees in your landscape. There isn't a curative measure yet, so time, money, and convenience, so to speak. We want to just really focus in on the prize trees to keep them as safe as possible. Larger woodland areas, there isn't an effective measurement or management option yet for that. So Mother Nature's kind of at her mercy in that regard. So thank you very much. This is a European purple beech, gorgeous. If you ever drive down Route 30, you see them on the lawn of Villanova. But over the years, they've also declined. Any questions? Feel free. Thank you. I'll be the mic guy.
So the injections are every other year, and then the phosphite, would that be on the same year as an injection, or would the injections be year 1, year 3, and then the phosphites year 2 and 4? How would you time the two treatments?
Yeah, so the phosphates can be done annually to help maintain that tree vigor. You certainly could space it at the same injection time and if you wanted to, but that would be, we'll say, a case-by-case basis, looking at the overall tree health. And I would likely recommend that it's done annually.
And that would be by injection or spray? That
would be a trunk treatment, a basal treatment. So it's sprayed or painted onto the trunk of the tree. There's some research out there saying that you can also use phosphates in the soil where it just kind of gets drenched or watered into the root system of the tree. Talking with some Dr. Buckley over at Rutgers and a handful of other researchers, I'm not thrilled with that idea. Phosphates are effectively a high salt content, and you can really, if you over-apply, you can do a lot of damage to the soil microbiome. So you're much safer doing it just directly to the trunk of the tree. It's a targeted treatment. You don't have to worry about impacting any other non-target trees or species. Does that make sense? Yeah. Perfect.
We use a backpack blower. That's another topic. We use a backpack sprayer, and then we coat the exterior of the trunk, probably like up to 6 feet. And the tree then the material translocates into the vascular system of the tree and then moves throughout the tree's plumbing system. Yeah, please. Oh.
Okay. My question is around like new trees or tree selection. So is there current guidance or recommendation to say, don't plant new American beech trees, or like, and who manages that?
That's a tough question. So
Okay.
No.
Yes and no. So in a forested setting, not knowing how the ecosystem is going to change, where the Forest Service is starting to see plant mortality and loss of beech trees, they're underplanting with resistant or different species, oaks, hickories, and so forth. They're not obviously putting beech trees back. In a residential setting, if another selection can be made, at this point, I would say make another selection. But I wouldn't be opposed to putting in, we'll say, a cultivar or an ornamental beech tree in a suburban landscape if there wasn't another option or if that was the desired piece selection.
you would just,
Caveat to that, so for example, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy a tree, are they refraining from making it available because of this? Like, is there any direction to that?
I wouldn't think so. It's taken 25 years to get rid of burning bush. So with the newness of this organism, yeah, they're not thinking about it. I would believe the nursery industry is thinking about how and which species they're going to use to line out, their fields and think about a 7 or 8 year, growth cycle, before going. Some of that research is still in question. How do they develop resistant varieties of beech to the nematode? But yet, and that's why we're here tonight, because the word really isn't fully out yet on this problem that's going to rapidly increase.
I'll just piggyback on that real quick. So if you are planning to plant a new beech tree, or if you just recently planted a new beech tree, you would just want to commit to treating that tree. It's the second you don't, beech leaf disease is coming for it. So if you think about ash trees, emerald ash borer, the emerald ash borer really targeted ash over 6 or 8 inches. So there's still some young ash saplings that are still alive in the forest because the EAB adults were not going after it. Beech leaf disease is different. The nematodes will go after a single bud. So if you have a little beech sapling that is a foot tall in the forest, it will get infected with beech leaf disease. So your young sapling that you're planting will get impacted by beech leaf disease. So you need to commit to treating it. Yeah. All right.
So thanks, that was excellent. But what is the prevalence in the Radnor Township of beech trees? Do we have a lot? I mean, what is?
As far as how many beech are in Radnor?
Yeah, like, are there a lot in the community, or there?
Yeah, so there are pockets around. There are pockets of the American beech tree that, as Steve said earlier, they like a particular habitat. But the European beech, the coppers and the weeping beech and the tricolor beech, they're just about everywhere. It's not on every property, but they're a big part of the community of trees. Fair?
Yeah, I was thinking the Northwood section of the township, a lot of beech. Skunk Hollow area, a lot of beech trees. Just come top of mind. Any really of our public parks would have woodland areas of beech trees and so forth. McCaig, which is not in Radnor, but yeah, a lot of beech trees. So it's a native species. So any woodland setting, they could be found. But to John's point, over the years, it was, I don't know, I can't quote anyone on this, but years ago, you didn't have a mainline estate if you didn't have a copper beech. So that was like the hallmark tree to have if you had an estate. So they've been around, and they are in the landscape. So Lower Merion, I know, has a tremendous amount of American beech.
Kind of related question is, 50 years ago, I learned in ecology that the climax forest community is called a beech maple forest. So when you say that, does that mean that there is stability to the range of species, tree species in that forest, that it has reached stability at some point? And is there something peculiar about these trees, other than being hardwoods, that makes them climax trees?
Great question. I would say it has to do with their slow growth nature, and the fact that they are indigenous to this region. So that would, what the concern is with the collapse of the beech tree, the building of the forest is going to change dramatically, where you may see this climax forest change over hundreds of years, multiple hundreds of years, if you will. That cycle could be shorter, because new invasive species could come into play and take over. So great question. And I would say that the foresters and the research community are really looking at that closely. So great question.
Hi. So you mentioned that it'll be approximately 3 to 7 years before the tree is dead. Is that like completely dead, like no leaves, or is that just in a state of decline? And then I'm specifically thinking about, at what point does a tree become a structural risk if you're not treating it?
Wonderful question. So the rate of decline is going to depend on we'll say the overall health of the tree at the beginning of infection. So 7 years is kind of the average for when a normal tree would die, how long it could fight it off, a young vigorous tree. Now in a forest setting, the younger understory trees will go much faster. So the young guy that's not out in the sunlight might be on the 2 to 3 year time frame, because he's just already not getting as much sunlight to begin with. And then when you have the reduced ability to photosynthesize, it just gives up the ghost faster. Out in a lawn setting, it'll be a little longer time frame that it has to fight. From a structural stability standpoint, I would say as it's dying, you'll want to call an arborist and have them come out and take a look at it. But beech are relatively strong. They're not going to start falling apart the way that ash trees did. Ash trees are very brittle to begin with. That's why they fell apart so quickly. But the beech will hang on a little longer.
So just from our professional business side, we're not suggesting to any resident or client to preemptively remove any trees. There's no fear of safety relative to nematodes or anything like that. What we're trying to do is preserve the trees for as long as we can, as John said earlier, until a more effective curative measure comes into play. These recommendations aren't coming necessarily from us. They're coming from the scientific community that is actively studying this nematode. So, yeah, so there's hope, and it's early yet in a lot of ways, so. Yes?
Do you know any side effects, any adverse effects of the spray when you spray the fungicide? Yes. Do we know about any adverse effects of the spraying to any other plant species or wildlife with the spray used?
Yeah, so we'll say the foliar nematicide would be the one that has the risk, because it is more of a broadcast application. There isn't a risk with the injections or the phosphite treatments to the trunk, because they're going directly onto and into the tree. But when you do the broadcast spray, any insect that's on that tree would then be covered with that nematicide. So nematicides are formulated to only kill nematodes, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to impact something else. So again, really prefer not to use them, and where we can, want to use the injections. But excellent question, yes.
there a point at which the death span is over? Or do we have to do 2 years, 2 years, 2 years for 10, 12, 14 years? Or would there be a point at which, if it's still alive, the risk has passed?
So,
Community spread, wide risk has passed.
yeah, so the question is there a time in which we can, stop injecting? Does the risk ever end? As of right now, no, the risk doesn't end. Just the same way that with elm trees, Dutch elm disease risk is still ever present. It will be something that's out there. As long as we have beech trees, we'll have beech leaf disease. So again, the hope is that something else is formulated that can protect them longer, where we don't have to inject them every year. Perhaps, the researchers can find that if you use this specific rate, that you can get 3 or 4 years out of that treatment. So there's a lot of studies happening right now, not just in Pennsylvania, but up in Connecticut and out in Ohio. That a lot of really smart people working on this right now, trying to figure it out, because it is such a critical species, and the risk of losing them is real.
Okay. Carol, I think this concludes our talk. Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody's attention. Appreciate that.